Not muted, okay.
Okay. We'll call to order a regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of St. Charles Parish at 6:03. Would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our roll call, we have myself, Commissioner Woods present, Commissioner Bailey, and Commissioner Jackson. We're expecting our chair to come in momentarily, and also hopefully Miss Belloc. With that, we'll move on to a review of the minutes for the month of November. Any questions or comments, corrections?
No?
No question.
If none, we'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
I'd like to pass a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting on 11/30/21.
A second.
Motion by Commissioner Bailey, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is passed.
I'm going to connect our fee accountant to go over our end of the year finances. So while I'm getting her on the line, I think it's important that you guys look at the bank statement because it's a current bank statement.
I did notice a grand increase in one of them.
God is good.
I was going to ask you some questions about that.
The bank statement, you may do that.
Okay. Particularly, I was going to question on the low rent.
Yes.
I see we are carrying a balance of over $2 million, $2,269,357. I'll let you tell me where that came from. Right?
2.2 of that 2.2 million of that balance is insurance settlements. We've already received our first payment. If a supplement is needed, we have the ability to file a supplement. But we're working with FEMA to cover the total destruction was like about $3.9 million, so we're short. So we're working with FEMA. FEMA's helping to cover our deductible in the gap that's there. And if we need to, for some reason, unforeseen damages, we can file a supplement, and that was in the settlement from the insurance company.
Okay. Do we, I want to ask this question. I know we're doing the conversion thing and mod and all of that stuff. Any restricted use of those funds or?
Hi, I'm going to put you on speaker, but I'm going to have some questions before we go to the financials, okay? Thank you. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I guess those funds that came in, we know it's insurance money and stuff. And I know that some of our units are in mods. We're in the midst of doing this conversion. Any restricted use of those funds or?
All of the insurance money is restricted. We can only use it for repairs.
Okay.
The operation subsidy, we use it for operation, but remember, HUD still have us on zero tolerance. Okay. So whatever we spend, I have to go to them and get approval first.
Insurance money has to go back to putting the buildings what they were pre-hurricane damage. Yeah.
That is correct. They're taking in consideration that the building material is increasing drastically.
Right. Okay. And so how much did they short us?
The deduction is our deductible.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. No, we wouldn't have accepted the shortage.
Yeah. No. Okay.
So before Anna speak, I wanted to be the first to tell the board about our end of the year financials. You know, transparency is my friend. And basically, we end the year badly. And I'll let Anna talk about that.
How are y'all doing this evening?
Very good, thank you.
That's good. I'm glad. So, when in September we had the hurricane that hit the property in St. Charles, and Leatrice evacuated 16 tenants. Leatrice
15
tenants, and took them to Houston and put them up in a hotel and provided meals for them. She did not have the cash in her low rent account because of being on zero tolerance and having to get all of that from HUD, and HUD was unavailable. So she used some of her Section 8 funds to pay those bills at the end of the year. And then HUD said they would not reimburse her for those fees, those expenses, but FEMA has agreed to reimburse her for somewhere between 90 and 100% of those evacuation costs. And so at the end of the year, she had zero money in low rent, and she owed Section 8. Hold on, I'm trying to look up exact numbers. Almost $29,000. And so it wasn't a great way to end the year. But she did have a receivable from HUD for her subsidy of over $92,000, which that's just the subsidy that she should have drawn had HUD not had her on zero tolerance. We've been working very diligently to get off zero tolerance, but I've got several clients on zero tolerance currently, and HUD is not, it's very hard to get off of that until you have, usually it takes anywhere between 12 and 24 months and sometimes longer. So I understand that, Leatrice, I think you said you have started to pay Section 8 back.
Yeah, we should have retired that debt by now. We weren't able to. Another problem we had is that we couldn't do a draw in September. Everybody was shut down, so we didn't even have a draw to come in. But in October, I was able to do the month of September and October on the draw. And the way that Sherry is doing it, because we spend some of some of low rent money toward HCV on the payroll, it accumulates, and when it gets to a certain dollar amount, then they'll tell us to do a transfer. So what she's been doing is reducing the amount that we owed by what was owed to low rent. So we are now in December. We should have been able to retire it by now. We don't have October or November or December finances because we were closing the year up, and it was reporting. There's a process we go through, but we'll be catching up shortly.
Yes, we should be catching up quickly. So do y'all have any questions about how we closed out the year? We have not heard from HUD yet.
I told them.
Go ahead.
I did alert my specialist.
Okay. And I have talked to the auditor to let him know. He and I talked about how to make sure we report it correctly and on the FDS. So he is aware, and he's also aware that FEMA is going to reimburse those funds.
So it's just a matter of we didn't have the funds available at that time, and so that's why we closed the end of the year the way we did. But we're being reimbursed by FEMA for those funds.
Right.
So all in all, it's going to equal out in the Section 8 program. We'll get the money back. So we'll be able to make the Section 8 program whole again from what we borrowed, what low rent borrowed.
Section 8 is probably whole now because every month they have to reimburse expenses to pay for their portion of just operating expenses. So when the money comes in from FEMA, it will probably at that point just stay in low rent as operating funds.
Okay.
But we just wanted y'all to be aware of how we ended the year, because it's never good to end the year with no cash.
Right.
Has all that, I know but HUD is just gonna look at how it ended, but is an explanation or something eventually gonna be where they understand why we did that?
They're going to send something to me, and I'll have to explain. They're definitely going to send us something.
Okay, all right, okay. And we do have the explanation and receipts and all that stuff too.
Everything she just told you.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
by that time,
Right. And we did put an explanation on the reporting when we filed it. So we did put an explanation into the FDS so that HUD has notes already.
Okay, good. That's what I was hoping to hear.
And considering how HUD is and the circumstances of how we ended the year, what position is that going to put us in with HUD?
he wants to know what will the consequences
The
be.
repercussions be with HUD, considering the way we ended the year, and would they be able to see or read the notes and maybe?
They could read the notes. They're going to slap our hand because we borrowed money from Section 8.
Right.
But because we paid it back quickly, and almost by the time we actually submitted the FDS, there's, all they can do is slap our hand because it's been paid back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you, Anna. For stuff like that, it's one thing for me to say, but I want them, I want the transparency. I want them to be able to answer the questions from the fee accountant.
No problem at all. Y'all enjoy the rest of your meeting, and Happy New Year.
All right, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Ms. Anna.
Okay, bye-bye.
So, with that being said, on our VMS, I want to say we have, we're somewhere around 165 vouchers because we've been porting out based on the tenants who have vouchers in their property being inhabitable. We are asking no questions because we know the fact of the matter is there's nothing available. Most of them are leaving state. We have a mandate to start issuing at minimum 2 new vouchers a month. We're going to follow the guidelines as it relates to the mandate, but the problem is still a problem. I have tenants who have vouchers who currently have them and can't find anywhere to stay. So to me, it's kind of like an oxymoron. We're just complicating a problem that's already there.
So you're saying that they're going to issue 2 vouchers
At minimum.
at January, starting January?
We're doing it now.
Now, because someone asked me, when was Section 8 going to open back up again?
It's not closed. When they're saying open, they're referring to the application process.
Right.
And the application process to go on the waiting list, we're just not there yet. Especially with the conversion.
Okay.
Yeah, we can open up the list, but all we do is put them there and have them waiting. Again, until we have properties available for rent. We do have a waiver for the vouchers that we're issuing to families that were affected by Ida. They literally can go out of our jurisdiction immediately. Normally it takes a year. They have to be here for a year and they can move out. But the problem is not a St. Charles problem. It is a metropolitan. Orleans, Jefferson, St. John, St. James are all having the same problem. Welcome. We socially distance.
We'll just note that our chair is in the meeting, and I will relinquish the chair to him.
Where are we at as far as the agenda?
Executive report. Executive report. Brandy has been compromised again. So I'll give her report on low rent. We have a total of 129 units. We have 70 that are leased up, and we have a total of 59 that's occupied because we did have units that were destroyed, and we can't bring them back. Those 7 people, of those 7, we've given 4 of them vouchers.
Can I take us back to what we were talking about, the two vouchers you're saying they're mandating? Just make sure that I'm clear on that. So even though we know we have, say, no availability here in our parish and probably neighboring parishes, we're going to issue at the minimum of the two vouchers with the understanding that people can immediately travel out to find housing.
Not the new vouchers. Not the new vouchers. The new vouchers cannot leave our jurisdiction. They have to follow the rule of staying here for 1 year.
Okay.
Vouchers for anyone else that was affected by Ida,
Can go. Okay, that's what I mean.
they can. They can.
So in all practicality, we're going to be putting vouchers in people's hands, and they're not going to be able to find. They're not going to be able to find housing.
Yeah, we create an internal paperwork.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
We create, sometimes the rubber doesn't meet the road. Decisions are made not specifically for our agency. It becomes a policy. And every state doesn't have our problem.
Okay.
Every PHA doesn't have our problem. But in the meantime, it is very important for the Department of Housing and Urban Development for reporting and their monitoring process. There's nothing we could do to
That they
influence
see us following their policy.
That is correct.
Whatever, I got you. Okay, that makes sense for us to do that.
That is correct.
All right. I want to make sure I was clear there.
So the next thing on my report I want to talk about is the voluntary conversion plan. Everyone knows we submitted the plan in June. I am pleased to say that our application has left the field office of New Orleans.
Okay.
It did detour. It's in New Mexico. It's in New Mexico, but we had a problem last month, and I wasn't here to share with you guys, but when it was forwarded to Mexico, only half the application was forwarded, not the entire application. One of our problems has been transmittal. HUD is remote. Everyone doesn't have the technology. The application is huge, so email doesn't work. So we created a Dropbox, and with the link, you just click on the link and everything comes up. But the person who our application was going to couldn't do that. So what we proposed to do was to take one of these binders and FedEx it to them, but they don't receive mail at home. So with that being said, we've been going months just not knowing what to do. So the chairman and I had come up with an idea to just go to D.C. and deliver it. But it has moved the field office, so I think it's only right that we wait to see what happens in New Mexico to determine whether or not we should go to the field office. Along with this, we also have the flash drive. It is a huge document. So in order to transmit it, what was done was that we took it and we divided in parts and transmitted it in parts. And at some point, some of the parts didn't make it to the next destination. So with that being said, I'm going to call our development partner. Everybody's frustrated. They understand it's not just our issue. But I have Mr. James Freeman. He's going to talk about the sources and usage of this document, which is very important to our agency as we move forward. I had a conversation with Mr. Bailey and a conversation with you, and there were questions that you guys were asking, which were valid questions, and we never talked about it before. And Mr. Bailey said, well, what are you going to do during the transition? I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm working myself out of a job. Never thought about it before. But anyway, let me get James on the phone. And if y'all want to take this and pass it down.
I know you said some parts just didn't get transmitted, but nothing. And I know there was issue of some piece of land or something. I guess my question is, but nothing.
We've gotten a survey.
Nothing major has changed in what, say, I read a couple of weeks ago. Has anything changed?
Nothing has changed. Nothing is going to change because it's a submitted application. Okay. If we change it, then we void the application that's already been submitted.
Good deal.
Okay. But there is a situation that came up with zoning for about 2 months, and there's a parcel of land in Hornville behind Unit 100 that the parish is now saying that it's ours. We didn't know if it was ours or not, but we have, a legal description in that document, and we also got surveys. So if it's ours, we want it.
Yeah,
That's not a problem. If it's ours, we want it. That's an extra unit.
okay.
Wait, it hasn't been determined if it was ours yet?
No, the parish didn't know.
Well,
And
I mean,
we needed documentation for it. We went on and cut it. That was the issue. The issue was, having it cut, the maintenance of it. We cut it.
right,
But as it relates to who legally owns it, the survey and the legal description will
right.
determine that.
And
And
that's
that
been
information,
ordered already, right?
that information, I got my finals maybe about a week and a half ago. We've been down for a week. If anybody tried to email me, it said undeliverable. We've been down for a week. We didn't come back up until today at 2:30. But I will make sure that zoning gets a copy of the legal description and also of the survey. Dang.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions while I'm getting Mr. Freeman on the phone? He has so many numbers. I don't know what's his office number and what's, so,
Ms. Hollis, while we, if I can just ask another question, as far as the,
y'all can keep that. I just need it back. Y'all can take turns. I know you want to go through it, Delario.
it,
I think that's some time right there.
yeah, I spent at least a couple hours with that thing.
And there's also a copy that y'all take it home, do what y'all need to do with it. We have a copy in the office, and I have a copy prepared with the flash drive if we need to deliver it to DC. So he's going to go over the source and usage. This is
Okay.
a very large project. Hey, how are you? I'm doing fine. I just introduced you. Hold on, let me join you in the meeting. All right. All right, it's your floor, James.
Okay. How are y'all?
Very good, sir.
Hey, James.
Good. So,
Excuse me.
did you want me
excuse
to just go over this, or did someone have direct questions, or?
I want you to go over it, but give a quick summary. I've already told them about the chaos of just trying to get our application delivered.
Yeah, that's
James,
been a real
go
issue.
ahead and kind of just introduce yourself and give us a quick summary, just so we're on the record here with the meeting, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, my name is James Freeman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Standard Enterprises. As you all know, Standard was chosen to be the development partner for St. Charles Public Housing Authority. The project, once it's done and tax credits are put on and financing is put in place, will be called Watson Court. I think that we just decided that the three sites may be renamed, but the partnership owning the property going forward will be called Watson Court Limited Partnership. And that will be made up of the Housing Authority, the nonprofit that y'all have created, and then Standard Enterprises. And of course, the investment partner, which will likely be Regions Bank. Don't know for certain now. We've kind of the project's drug on, and they've filled their quota for 21. So I think we'll get back in for 22. But if they, for whatever reason, are not interested in credits anymore, we have a slew of other people that would be willing to look at it. But I think Regions would be the most sensible choice. But anyway, Watson Court would be the ownership going forward post conversion, if you will. The plan is to rehab all 129 units, the DA site, and sorry, I can't say that for nothing in the world. Complete demo and rebuild of those. Butte and Honville will both be substantial rehabs. I don't know if y'all got to see the preliminary sources and uses that we're working from right now, but the plan is roughly $100,000 in rehab per unit at Butte and Honville, and then the complete rehab or demo and new construction at DA. That $100,000 in rehab is pretty substantial. That should take it down to the studs. We're assuming there's asbestos. We're assuming there's probably some lead-based paint here and there. All that will be removed. We'll be putting back washer and dryers inside the units, new windows. Well, now with the hurricane really changed a lot. We're still trying to go through and figure out what's insurance going to pay for and what will now be included in the rehab, and that's still kind of up in the air to some degree. Good news is you'll end up with complete new properties as opposed to rehab only touching certain aspects of it. It did create somewhat of a conundrum, but it's something that we can work through. And just once everybody gets on the same page, everybody being insurance, FEMA, architect, we'll figure out for sure that nothing gets missed. But and feel free to stop me at any point and ask any questions. I may be jumping around a little too much, but
no. Let me interject, because before I got you on the phone, the question was asked about whether or not the application was changed. So I want to clear that up. The application doesn't change. The source and uses change, and I think it's actually sweeter.
It will be a little sweeter. You're right about that. And this particular source and uses does not anticipate any insurance proceeds. And it gets tricky when you get to the tax credit side, because the tax credits are derived from eligible basis. You got to spend certain monies you spend generate the tax credits. Well, insurance proceeds does not generate tax credits. And so if there's any difference between what the insurance is actually paying for and the cost of the work, that money can support more or additional tax credits. I don't say more, but support additional tax credits than what we were originally anticipating. It's gotten so foggy to try to figure out, is there going to be a small gap there? It does appear that from the initial assessments that we got back so far, and bleachers may be some more current ones that I'm unaware of, but it don't look like there's going to be much of a gap. If it is, it's so small that it's probably not worth completely re-underwriting the whole project just to try to pick up that few additional tax credits. The project without the insurance proceeds is a good project. I mean, it pencils out very well. With the insurance proceeds, what Lisa just said is right. It just sweetens it. I mean, it's going to be a really good project. Problem is, we just can't seem to get there. I'm sure she's told y'all some of the HUD issues that we're having, and that there's two different applications that we may refer to right now. The Streamlined Voluntary Conversion Plan, which is actually the application to remove the housing authority from HUD, and then we got the tax credit application on the other side. She's right. The Streamlined Voluntary Conversion application to HUD was not changed any at all by the hurricane, and that's what we just can't get off center. I mean, somebody at HUD has to start reviewing that in order for us to get to step 2. And we're well beyond. I should say it's probably more like step 6 or 7. But she's had a lot of conversation. I think maybe even has brought in some of the local congressional members to help push this through. But we've heard a good bit, and I've just never seen anything like they're putting St. Charles through. It just don't make any sense to me. Every excuse in the world has been thrown at leaders and staff, and it's mind-boggling.
So you have another client that's now doing streamlined voluntary conversion, right?
We do, yeah. And so that client also went through hurricane. It's the Highway Housing Authority, which is just outside Lake Charles. They went through 2 hurricanes last year and the winter freeze. So she got hit with 3 whammies, if you will, natural disasters. And we got through that, and it was a big issue, just getting her tenants placed somewhere else because they could not live on site. The damage was so bad. And so HUD was just fully on board to get those tenants relocated, got them tenant protection vouchers, got them moved off-site for 18 months, housed somewhere else, and I wouldn't say expedited the application, but it went pretty seamlessly through the state office. It's now hung up at headquarters level, and it's not really hung up. It's just going through the final environmental clearance and some of the final steps of the review. But the state process was
James, if I can stop you real quick, which field office do they have to go through?
The
for
New
Lake
Orleans.
Charles?
Yeah, everybody goes through New Orleans. So, now with St. Charles, we've been not reassigned, but New Mexico field office, one of the New Mexico field offices has now come in to help do the review, and it's kind of aggravating because HUD will not accept anything but emails. They won't let us send them a hard copy. They won't let us put it on a disk drive. I mean, and this plan is so cumbersome and so lengthy that if you get the emails out of order, it's very hard to follow. And so, I'll explain to y'all how emails work. You get all these different file sizes. Some comes through quicker than others, and I mean they're very well enumerated. They're very well presented, but you get 14, 15 different emails, and you're trying to follow this plan through and read it. It's difficult, and we've just begged people to let us deliver you a hard copy or let us deliver it to you on a disk drive where you get it all and it's easy to follow. But to answer your question, yeah, New Orleans handles all Louisiana initial applications, and so St. Charles has now been kicked to New Mexico. That I felt like was a good thing because they would probably go ahead and review it, but it's not necessarily moved a whole lot since it's got there. So.
I'll say he's talked general, and I've kind of followed what he was saying. Does he have that preliminary sources and use funds, the actual page that's
I'll get you guys, that's my fault. I'll get you guys a hard copy. It's going to be emailed to you.
okay?
It's what, 2-3
I can get
pages?
this email tomorrow.
Yeah, because that's where I was hoping this.
But if you need something to refer to, it's in the application, right, James?
It is, yeah. It may be it's slightly changed since then, but yeah, that one in the application is a good guide to go by.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a projection.
And so I'm gonna say it's just probably just my ignorance, but I'm understanding most of what the numbers are. But when you get to the right column of this preliminary source and use of funds, I'm not following, and that's where I hoped our explanation would have been specific to the numbers that are on the page.
Okay. Well, I can go over them. You not having it in front of you, it may be a little tough to follow, but I'll kind of go over a quick the sources and the uses, and then if you want to get down, I can break the uses down on a per line item basis, but for just general discussion purposes, I'll kind of lump them together.
Okay.
So you may or may not have seen the preliminary sources and uses, and they have changed. I mean, I'm on version 18 now, so they have changed over time, and what we're at now, it's going to change another couple times. But the sources are, for one, we're making an application to HUD, not the public housing side, but the multifamily side for a 221D4 loan, and that's a 40-year amortizing loan, fully amortizing, fully non-recourse. Once the loan's in place, then as long as you're making mortgage payments and servicing the loan like it should, then everything's good. And but that projected loan is going to be $14 million. Probably be a little bit more, but for round numbers, let's go with $14 million. That's very conservatively underwritten loan. From my part, I mean, we took the expenses that the Housing Authority historically has operated under, added a little bit more for some property insurance and things that the property will have to take on. Not that you don't have property insurance already, but right now the Housing Authority is operating under the leakers, you may correct me if I'm wrong, but all the housing authorities operate under a statewide umbrella insurance. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so that insurance number is pretty low. When you go into the private sector and you have to go get your own insurance, that number will go up a little bit. So we took all that into account, that what the new cost would be to operate the property and size that loan accordingly. The tax credit equity is going to be about $9.7 million, 9.6 to 9.7. That's strictly generated off selling the tax credits to regions or whoever the investor will end up being. If you have looked at it, you'll see a seller take back note of $5.7 million All that is the appraised amount of the three properties. You know, we had appraisal done back last year. Cookmore and Associates out of Baton Rouge done the appraisal, and that's strictly a in and out number. The Housing Authority will carry a note on the property. That note can be serviced every year, following cash flow, but you know, it's one thing that the Housing Authority and the nonprofit will probably want that cash flow, and so that note may not ever actually get serviced. But that's something we can discuss later, and just the structuring of the waterfall of the cash flow after operations of the property on an annual basis. There is projected to be a small developer fee note, and there's a developer fee being made, and then the developer fee note is basically just a pot of money that you go to help fill the gap between the sources and uses. So, again, I think I got a different run than what y'all may have seen in the application, but projecting that note to be about $160,000, which is about 3% of the fee. Pretty small number in the grand scheme of things. Our goal was to get that number to zero, but it's, in these tax credit deals, I've done 80-something of them in my career, and I've never had one that didn't have some sort of deferred developer fee. You try to keep that number, again, small as it can be, but that's kind of your bucket of money to go help balance the sources and the uses. So your uses would be the acquisition, and just talked about that number being kind of an in and out number. The $5.7 million, the construction contract, which is made up of the three sites, the rehab cost, and then the demo and rebuild. That's a little bit over $14 million. The developer fee on this one is a pretty good fee. It's about $4.9 million. The other soft costs, which would be everything that's not construction related, architect, engineering, environmental studies, market studies, operating reserves, legal, pay all the lawyers. When you do one of these bond deals, the legal costs on these things are just outrageous, but pay all them, all the financing fees, all the, construction interest during construction, a whole list of things. But we got that projected about $4.7 million. So that's kind of your sources and your uses. Now, I think you mentioned the right side of the page. All this is my internal run. If you get to that right side of the page, it just breaks all those numbers down on a per unit basis, and that's all that is. It may be confusing to look at that. I would stay with the left side of the page and the left columns, and that's kind of the summary of everything, if you will.
Okay, the percentage. I don't think that we've covered the fact that the agency or a new entity get a percentage of that development fee, and that was one of the things that was questioned. How do we support the new entity once we get it? And we have what's our agreement? 40-60.
70-30. You keep trying. I give you that. Yeah, 70-30. Actually, I don't know that I can answer that honestly, Waitress, about who your person is to serve in that. I think the nonprofit that y'all created can serve in full capacity to receive the 30% that y'all are earning. I don't think it has to be the Housing Authority, but again, I need
it's
Wayne
definitely
or somebody smarter than me to answer that.
And it's definitely not going to be the Housing Authority.
Yeah, so it would be. I know y'all have that loan to HUD that you got to repay, but I don't see why the nonprofit couldn't loan the Housing Authority the money or something for it to flow through, and then could possibly get that money back down the road. So
Never thought about that part.
yeah, well, the Housing Authority will. Somebody's going to get the cash flow. And that's one thing about our agreement. That's one thing I'm so adamant about keeping that 70-30 development split, because we don't get any of the cash flow going forward. The cash flow that's generated from the property on an annual basis will go to either the Housing Authority, the nonprofit, someone on that y'all control. So, that can be used to help fund operations on the Housing Authority side. It can be used to service, maybe a loan that's made, from by the nonprofit to the Housing Authority. Yeah, it can be a number of things can be done with it. It's unrestricted money. You can do what you want to with it. So, and we just need to figure out who gets it and the best avenue, because all the housing authorities are different. I mean, each situation's a little different, so how that's structured is, it really needs to get the lawyers involved and figure out the best way for that money to come in to you and the board that's unrestricted funds. Don't get their money hands on it. I mean, it's something that y'all control. You make decisions with, and roll with it. So,
Any questions?
That does clear it up more for me. If I have any further questions, I'll get with Ms. Hollis, and she's good at finding out what the answers are.
And please give my number out, Leechers, and if y'all have any direct questions and you want to go over it, maybe get it in your hands and we'll go over it. I'll be more than glad to talk to you one-on-one and explain it in a little bit more detail, or maybe do another group call, maybe next month or so, and get down there and go over it. But it's a good budget. I'll be honest, with the housing authorities we dealt with so far, this is by far the best budget I've had. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you, James. Thank you for your time. Get the most current version to me, and I'll share it with my board. I'm also going to include you and Richard in that same email, so everyone will have everybody's email address.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I will. I'll try to get somebody in the office more to scan this latest version, the one I sent you a picture of, and make sure.
You sent me a picture? Yeah.
We're not going to change it in the application because it's not changed enough to matter to HUD any. I mean, we don't want to change anything in that application to give them a reason not to process it. So.
Awesome.
Thank you, James.
Sure. All right. Thank y'all. Y'all have a happy New Year.
Thank you, sir.
Same to you. So here's how I'm going to end my my report. I didn't prepare any resolutions, and he made a very good point. The entity that we just created, we created it a while ago, but you guys are the governing board. Literally, what that entity becomes, you guys determine that. Not me, not the development partners, and not HUD. Y'all have complete control. So what I suggest, and that's just one of several things I want to address. We had the COVID shutdown. We had IDA. Internally, I'm not comfortable because we have intervals of work. And when you deal with the HCB program, that is very important. That's St. Charles Parish Housing Authority. That doesn't go away. That's not our program, and I don't think people understand that. Right. We are simply the contract administrators. We have an opportunity to grow it because we need it. We have an opportunity to create a supply for people to have somewhere to go because we're expanding what's available. Right now, we only have 69 units available, but we have 129. We will have 130, but we could build. We could buy land. So what I suggest is that we bring in a consultant, and I'm going to tell you why. I want to bring in a consultant. The name of the group is Circular. I want Circular to work with me internally and make assessments so that we could be proactive if we missed anything, and to work with the board. Because we've tried several things. The training just don't work. It don't work for me. It doesn't work for me. And one of the things that we've been doing over the last couple of months is that I've been meeting with other PHAs. So we kind of like have developed a little collaboration to helping one another. And there's some things that I've seen that I know we have to address internally. It's still a learning curve for me. But again, the governing part of it, we need to address it. The training doesn't work for me. I know it hasn't worked for some of y'all. And the training that we're getting is not preparing us to move forward. Right. So one of the things that's happening, January going to be a bombshell. Jefferson Parish is being taken over. They are currently in the process of going through the transition. I met Circular because they're the consulting firm that's taking care of the transition. And the council is very comfortable with them. Jefferson Parish have 4,000 plus vouchers. Right. We have 373 and 163 that's currently leased up. And also their public housing department, they're like 5 times. So I think it's and they're doing a voluntary conversion. Everybody want to do it now. they're doing a voluntary conversion and have completed their application and submitted their application. And the one thing that I've learned is that in the federal government arena, if it works, you duplicate it. No sense in recreating the wheel. I want them to go through all our policies, all our manuals, because rules and regulations are interim and it changes. It changes. A lot of things change because of COVID, and we just went through the process on some of them. Our emergency preparedness, just a whole lot of everything. Our personnel policy. I was reading it. We still have Curl Lorek in it, and it's only a year and a half old, but it needs to be updated. So I want to bring in a professional consulting firm. So I'm asking you guys to make a motion. So I don't have a resolution. To make a motion for me to enter into negotiation of a contract and develop a scope of service, of which I would like you guys to help me participate in developing.
That's what you're saying is what I was going to try and get at, is that we're the governing board. So as they're putting that, I'm going to say they should, if we just have
They need to be working with
a
y'all.
small
I
committee
implement.
to work with that consulting firm so we understand what we should have and have some input of ideas of things that we may like ourselves.
And it's an awesome learning opportunity for the commissioners.
Is this going to be handled with RFPs, or how is that done?
We don't need to do an RFP because of the cost. We have a situation, our HCB specialist is leaving. I just found out last week. We civil service, that process take anywhere to 4 to 5 months. We cannot afford not to have somebody in there dealing with our HCB program. That's where the $605,000 came from.
All right, so you're asking the board tonight for a motion to enter into negotiations with a consultant for the purpose of?
For the purpose of updating and assisting in training. The scope of service is not there yet. That's what we need to work on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, would any member of the board like to make
I wish my brain understood that.
a motion?
So, all right, Mr. Chair, I'd like to pass a motion
Huh?
to allow the executive director to enter in this negotiation with
Circular
a
consultant.
circular consultant to update the policies.
Update
And
and create.
And update, create, and train.
All right, Commissioner Bailey has moved to enter into negotiations as stated, and do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That
So
motion
once
carries.
negotiation occurs and we come up with a document, I still have to come back to you guys for a resolution.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's all I got. Oh, Hornbill. Jeez.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. There's no
I know
way.
you've had some issues in Hanville.
Oh
so
my
if you
God.
want-
So all of our cameras have been down and we've had a problem getting overhead electricals to get our cameras back online. So Hornville, and Hornville has been in the dark at night. They have used guns and shot out the security cameras. And they've commandeered the community center. They stole all of our equipments, our TVs, our VCRs, everything that we use to do orientation in the community center, bust up the walls, tore it up. And when Charleston went there, with the police, the drug paraphernalia, and it was still lingering strongly, which meant they went out while Charleston were coming in. So I have contacted the sheriff department. Charles has been working with an officer. We were able to get some strings pulled and get our cameras back on in Hornville. It's a temporary fix, but we still do not have security lights. And Entergy says they can't come out until next year. Well, that's next week. So I'm not going to sweat that, but it has been a problem. We've gotten increased patrols in the area, and the residents are scared to death to call the police. It is not people that live in the community, but when they were calling the police will go to their unit. Then they were retaliating. So we've talked about that process. You know, when a call come out, don't go to the unit that called you. Go to where the problem is, so that they can have confidence in calling. So,
I know there was a time, and I don't think we've seen him here for a while, but the sheriff is still on board to come in reporting to us as they did in the past.
well, I wasn't a part of how that process started, but
Yeah, they're supposed
the
to be
resource
going
officer.
and logging in. They're supposed to be going in and making you aware and logging in hours, if I'm correct, the amount of time that they spend.
Well, I've seen them a couple of times here at the board meeting.
And you will come to the board meeting and,
And give
provide a
reports.
report,
Yes,
pretty much.
yes.
I also-
Incident report.
Yeah, I'm scheduling a meeting, and one of y'all come with me to meet with the sheriff. But I am working on the increased patrol, one, installating the resource officer, and we have gone to the detective bureau and update all of the equipment, because we did provide them access to the cameras. They can see that. They can see it there. And some of the officers on the street, we need to identify who they are and update their mobile application, because you can literally, I mean, I lay in the bed sometime 12 o'clock trying to figure out, how things going, and I could see everything that's happening in Huntsville. What I am going to also do is get 2 more cameras. I'm going to get 2 cameras that point to, what is the street? Smith. So we could see who's coming in. When we got the first set of cameras, they started going behind the buildings. So we got cameras behind the buildings now, and we're going to get some cameras that's going to point to Smith.
And I think it's important to have a camera that probably scan plates too, or at least see the plates so that they know who was coming in and out. Because one of the complex that I have, Project NOLA, it's an organization that monitors cameras to help fight crime in New Orleans, and just from that plate reader, they'll scan the plate and they can know when a suspect, like a certain person, comes in that area that has crime somewhere else. So it almost like alerts them.
Yeah, because there's this black SUV that everybody have their eyes on, but I would love to have that license plate number. That's an excellent idea. I'll look into that tomorrow.
But I think we should, definitely have a camera that
Send me
looks
the
at
info
plates. And then,
on the camera.
Okay. And I think they kind of, once we got the cameras up and running, I think the sheriff office kind of, since they were able to see everything, I think they stopped doing it the way that they used to do it.
It dropped drastically. It was after Ida that everything just went crazy.
But I think it's also like, if we can, I know the cameras work and they monitor the crime, and they can monitor the crime remotely, but I also think that we should get at least a presence in the community. So I know we can monitor the crime remotely, but we also have a patrol car go through every so often, just so people, feel safe. Let's put it that way. And know that they're still coming around in the community.
And we are working to increase the patrols. That's something that's been
Awesome.
So I know, I think you and I spoke before about setting up the meeting with the sheriff too to address some of the concerns. So
Yeah, he's been very helpful. He provided officers for. We had 2 toy drives. We couldn't do the toy drives on our facilities because of the condition of it, but we did have it at local churches, and we also made sure that some of them, what we had left over, went to Kelowna.
Yes, I did attend that event, and it was a great one.
Yeah, same process, haircuts, gifts, food, entertainment for the kids. I think our budget may have been about $2,500, and we took care of all of those communities, and we had leftovers, and I mean really nice gifts. We did partner with We Made, and it was just awesome. But the sheriff just immediately jumped aboard, and I think I got the number from you, huh? Yeah. Jumped aboard, sent officers out.
And I'll say they even had a presence up in Cologne at that event also.
Awesome.
any other board discussion or anything? All right, do we have any motion from the board at this time?
I was gonna, just for a quick discussion, can we have like maybe a couple of minutes executive session?
All right,
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we move into executive session.
we have a motion
Second.
made and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we end our executive session and return to a regular order.
All right, motion made,
A second.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll resume the regular meeting. Any board discussion? Any motions?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Time is
New Year.
7:12. This meeting is adjourned. Thank y'all.
Thank